Welcome back, everyone. As we have refreshed ourselves, well, let us dive in right away to session 5, the aviation safety management in the APAC region. The session number 5 will be moderated by the regional officer, Nazmul Anam of the Flight Safety of Asia and Pacific Office of ACAO. So, please.
Thank you. All right, good morning, everybody. Can you hear me at the last? Okay, so this is session 5. We will have 4 presentations starting from me, and we will have roughly 1 hour 30 minutes plus, and 12:50 we would like to close the ceremony, so we have a compulsion of time maintenance. Now, first of all, starting with me, my name is Anam. You can call short name Anam. I'm the regional officer for flight safety in the ICAO Asia Pacific office in Bangkok. Regarding my background, I'm a pilot. I was also in the Air Force as a fighter pilot, MiG-29, and then ventured into the civil aviation. I was a director in Bangladesh Civil Aviation Authority for 5 years on the flight standard, and then joined ICAO Asia Pacific office for the last 5 years. And tried to do a couple of things good, which I will narrate during my presentation. And I was also a Deputy Chief MOVCON in DRC Congo under the United Nations mission, where I had 78 aircraft and 6 airlines under me, from where actually civil aviation started in my mind. So I'm also an Ops and PEL auditor on behalf of ICAO. And looking after the RASC, APRUST, all the safety meetings back in the Bangkok office. So with that short introduction of mine, for the interest of time, I would like to also introduce my panel members, the rest of the 3 together, so that we don't waste time in between. So first of all, let me stand up and make a difference, is Captain Jani. So our old good friend from Malaysia. Basically, Captain Jani wanted to be an engineer. So in the 1987, he joined the University of Akron, Ohio, USA. Thereafter, he served the Royal Malaysian Air Force as a helicopter pilot from 1989 until 2003, and logged about 4,000 hours in helicopters, 200 hours in the fixed wing. And later on, in 2005, he joined the Department of Civil Aviation in Malaysia. He has brought in a lot of changes in Malaysian civil aviation, including Malaysia was a FAA Category 2 country. He has devoted himself and was one of the main coordinator for getting the country into Category 1. And certainly, he devotes himself for the flight operation directives and the rules and regulation making in that department. He's also an NCMC for both USOP and USAP on the security part of it. So certainly a vast experience. We will hear from him on the experience of NSP and SSP development and implementation in Malaysia itself. And next is Chris Monahan. So he's from Australia, and he's the executive manager of the National Operations and Standard in CASA. And Chris, actually, I don't know, I asked him that whether he's an American or Australian, but then he started his career back in the Air Force in United States. And then he has vast experience in the 40 domestic and international aircraft and multiple deployment in the Afghanistan, Iraq, and also in NATO. He had been also in the embassies in very significant roles. He was also one of the expert in F-15, F-16, F-22 Raptor, AMRAAM, and Predator and Reaper capabilities, and also for the F-35 requirements. Now, he joined after the retirement in 2016 in CASA, Australia. And in 2017, he's holding the post of executive manager of the National Operations and Standard Divisions. So he has a numerous thing and a lot of responsibility. If we have to name, it will consume time. So you can sort it out from his presentation itself with his vast experience on the topic, Australia's SSP and NASP, effective management on the HRC, in the implementation of APRASP, which is the Regional Aviation Safety Plan for 23-25. So next, our last presenter will be basically from Korea itself, where, how do I say your name? Hyang-bae Kim, is that okay? Kim is easy for me, every Korean is Kim. Okay, so, so he's the Deputy Director of Aviation Safety Policy and Licensing Division, and he received his master's degree from the Korean University, joined basically as an air traffic controller in 2007 under the Air Traffic Division, and then till 2012, he was there. He moved to the Airport Policy Division in 2013. And then Mr. Hyang was also the Director of Finance, Planning, and Coordination Office he held it in 2019. Now he holds the position of Deputy Director, Aviation Safety Policy and Licensing Division. So he will be talking about a very important subject, which is called SDCPS, Safety Data Collection and Processing System, as you know, in Korea, how it is being implemented. So with that, all four of our presenters is being introduced for the session 5. And then we will go with the first one that starts with me. I think we can keep it here. All right. Okay, so each one of us will roughly take about 15 minutes, and after the fourth presentation, I will come back again to show some tools that we are developing on the Asia Pacific side. A little bit of beta version, you can say, but then those are related to the monitoring of all these things. Okay, so in terms of GSP and APRAPS 2023-25, as you know that the Global Aviation Safety Plan, the latest version came last year in October 2022. So the revision of gas target and indicators, taking into account the factors such as the pandemic impact, was an issue. And certainly all of us know about it. I will go a little quickly because I'm sure that in this house, most of you are oriented with the GASP. So we will have a little more time in the RASP, Regional Aviation Safety Plan itself. As you know that the new one has 5 HRCs or high-risk category we know, which is called Global GHRC. And certainly the impact of the aviation disruption events on the aviation safety, and it needs a resilience, and migration of the implementation support content, making the GASP solely strategic. So we have the document called GSP as a strategic, RASP, the regional safety plan that we call it operational maybe, and then the last one with the nations that you are making, which is the National Aviation Safety Plan, is the tactical document. So there are interrelation between all these three. And the content of 2023-25 has basically 6 chapters with 6 goals. And goals are, kind of self-explanatory, that we have to reduce the operational safety risk, we have to strengthen the oversight capabilities, which is very easy to say, but it's a big thing from critical element 1 to 8, which we will come back with a little bit of the tools. And then implement the effective state safety program, increase the collaboration at the regional level, and expand the industry program like IOSA, ISAGO, and all those. Ensure the appropriate infrastructure. Now, this chart shows that the old one from 2022, whatever, but next slide will give you that what are the corrections. You can see on the left side there are a number of targets where the year of completion is actually being revised, 23, 24, so which used to be 2022. Some of them are being deleted, some of them are being edited. So that's how all the targets that we see under each goal has been kind of revised in the new version. So if you go to the 10004 in the GSP document, you will find all these even at the prelude. So these are some of the new targets that has been also introduced, that all states will have to publish the NASP. That's one of the big things that we have to do. And then certainly you know that NSP is a subset of SSP, and there are a lot of confusion with the relation between SSP and NSP, but then know it that NSP is one of the part of the SSP basically. Okay, so these are the overview of the targets, that overall we would like to decrease the trend, maintain the decreasing trend of the global accident rate. That's one of our major issue, and then effective implementation, as I said, 75%, 85%, and 95% in different years are being the new sets. And thereby, all state will have to also do the foundation SSP, which is like 299 protocol questions out of your use of CMS 790 is the fundamental or foundation of the SSP. And as we already said, by 2024, you have to publish the NSP. So there are a number of them, as you can see, that we have to take into account for the Asia-Pacific region too. Okay, so global HRC for 23 and 25, we have 5, as you know, that CFIT, LOCI, runway excursion, incursion, and MAC, media collision. So those 5 we have to take here. And thereby, GSP-related document and tools, we can see the monitoring goals and targets, or we are trying to make a GSP dashboard so that things are being facilitated for all the states. And then monitoring and reporting the goals and targets, and there will be a reporting tool, implementation support in terms of information sharing, exchange, direct implementation support for the NSP IPAC. And number of them has been already conducted in our region. And then certainly we would like to have a public website, information center for all GSP, RSP, and NSP thing, which is there little bit in terms of secure portal with the NSP itself. States are uploading, all of you know about that. And then in terms of NSP development, you can see there are a number of documents has been developed where circular, one of the circular has been deleted, and then new document came 10161, 10131, and 10162. Some of them are revised and new. Okay, so yeah, these are the documents. You can see 10131 came up with the second edition, and where it updates the NSP guidance, and circular 358 has been obsolete. And then we have to see that the templates and then gas terminology and all these in that document, where we have also narrated that global HRCs are being said as GHRC, regional is RHRC, and for the nation, what you will be making is actually NHRC. So that one point we have to remember. And certainly, the before GSP was embedded with everything, including the roadmap. Now, another fundamental difference is roadmap has been taken out to 10162. So now you know the GSP document is short, like 80 to 83 pages, I believe. And then the GASR exactly says you where you have to go. But one thing you have to remember, everything is like Safety Enhancement Initiative, we say, ACI. There are ACI in the roadmap of global document, which is the GSP. There are ACI in the regional document, which is the RSP, and you will be also developing as a nation the ACIs. So there has to be a synchronization from top, how it is coming, and the alignment is very, very important. Okay. So it develops and provides guidance of the ACIs, as I said. And the targets, once we want to build a safety enhancement initiative, which is the last action item, it must have targets that when and how you want to do that, okay? So that's what exactly I said on the 10162. And then if you have any confusion, if you read it twice, it's fairly easy, and then you will understand from the document. Certainly, we are trying to have more IPACs as far as possible. And then ICAO developed and dedicated NSP IPAC, and a number of them has been already delivered in this region. And for more information, you can also see the website as given in the link. There is an NSP library. As I said, that this is still in the secured portal because all of you will have to upload, and there is a state letter already published on that, and then almost 60% of the Asia-Pacific states have published. But point to note here is that you have done it before the new version of GSP, but October 2022 GSP has been changed. Roadmap has been isolated. 10162 has been introduced. Circular 358 has been abolished. So there are fundamental, dynamics that you have to take into account. But in the 10131, hardly changed in terms of, chapters and the headings. So thereby, you may have to a little bit revise what you did before 2022. So that is one of the points that you might have to take care. And this is another dashboard that we are saying on the GSP might come in the third quarter of the 2023. And I already explained between the GSP and the roadmap, what are the differences coming up. Okay. Now, in terms of Asia-Pacific Regional Aviation Safety Plan, RASP, we have to now align with all these changes. And you see the complex task because every 3 years, GSP gets changed, and then we have to also jump around with the RASP to align. And nation also will have to align with their NSP. And it's not an easy task in 3 years cycle, if you say, because by the time you start, the document does not come out. Let's say document has come out in end of 2022. So you can't start long before, if you even want to. And many places you had been on the phase of implementation. So that's a challenge. We have to think that how we do this overlapping part of it is another challenge what we are seeing in the region. So when we have to build up APRASP, we don't have a expert group or study group like headquarters. In the region, we face a lot of challenges to get people and then try to know the GSP, what is coming, and then try to interpret ourselves because there is no training session at that point in time, and then try to incorporate in the RASP as fast as possible. So that becomes a challenge. And then still we are trying to do that, forming an expert group from states, taking your expertise, and then, thank you very much that all of you have supported in the last one. And when we say that, one of the major problem is the EI that we have. That means that exactly says that where is Asia Pacific. We don't really get 50% of the state on board often. So you see the 13 states on the left is starting from 5% EI to 49% average is something like 36%, where we have only 11 states in between 60 to 75, from whom we can expect a little more, and then a couple of states on the right side, and they are coming up in the expert group and then trying to support us. So we expect more experts to be involved in the system, and then we can certainly do the task. This was the last 23-25 version that we tried with the co-lead of ACI and India and USA. So they have done a wonderful job to summarize the RASP. In Asia-Pacific RASP, one exception is that we could not include MAC, Media Coalition, which is the global HRC, just because of the fact we don't have sufficient data. Data does not say MAC is a priority HRC for Asia-Pacific. So we have given the task to our SRP working group so that sufficient data justifies that we have to include. So there are customization. Even the GSP says 5 high-risk category, but we have basically 4. So thereby, the evaluation team came up that, MAC is not included in these 3 years. And then ARC, abnormal runway contract, has gone a little above comparing the past years. The targets also affected, just one of them, because level 3 SSP was one of the things that we have taken out, and then the target has gone one step up. Okay, so for the org roadmap, which is another challenge, ops roadmap is easy with the HRC. You just go ahead with the action with 5 of them. But in the org roadmap, you have number of ACIs that you have to develop, and then you can see we have an issue with the C4, which is the qualified human resources, only 53%. That means if you walk to a CA, out of 2 people, 1 is not qualified, probably. So just half of it. And then C8 is another that, because you have the findings, but you don't close it ever. So only 48%. And that's exactly saying that rest of the Cs are being impacted because you don't have qualified people in C4. They cannot write legislation just because you don't have people qualified. They cannot do surveillance because they're not confident. They cannot close the findings and challenge the industry because they're not qualified. So C4 is in the pivotal part of the whole thing, which will, kind of push rest of the Cs. And update on the RASP, we are trying to have the new ACIs and all these, considering the GSP guidance and our own dynamics. And timeline extension, we are still on the draft. We have put it in the website, but by June it will be finally promulgated because other documents came end of the year, so we took 3 months' time to put it as a draft. Okay, so another thing that we are also pursuing PESO to come up and then give us the support for the island states. All those existing SCIs are being taken care. Not much of other changes, only the industry program we are trying to incorporate. And HRC and organizational challenges are mostly unchanged. So we have 4 HRCs, as I said. This is the monitoring tool. I will show you at the last, after all the presentation for maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, if we get time, how we monitor all these things in the region. All right, so I'm almost at the last. Relationship between GSP, RSP, and NSP, as I already said, is a strategic, operational, and tactical document. There has to be an alignment. The ACIs has to be kind of aligned to address the global issues and the regional issues. So when you develop the NSP, you must take care of that. And certainly critical elements, ICAO, all 8 critical elements are fundamental, sitting in between as a core thing. Component 1, component 2, one is oversight, one is SSP. Within component 1 and component 2 is phase 1, and phase 2 is nothing but critical element 1 to 5 and 6 to 8. So thereby SSPIA is another issue that we would like to put out for component 2 unless you are matured to level 4. A lot of CAT and technical assistance mission is going on in the region so that we can support. So that's all. Maybe we will take all questions at the last. I'd like to invite Captain Jani for the next presentation. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning. I'd like to, reflect what Captain Fernandez mentioned this morning. Being in the baby boomers, I think that the hardest part is to stay awake, in a seminar, for 4 hours, So I hope, and since we are in the last panel, so I hope I can, entice you all to stay awake, and listen to our presentation. Okay, I've been tasked to explain or to share our experience with regards to development and also implementation of NASP, National Aviation Safety Plan, and also State Safety Program for Malaysia. As introduction by Mr. Anam, I'm a Deputy CEO of Civil Aviation Authority of Malaysia, in charge of Regulatory Division. And before that, I would like to also express our gratitude to the government of Korea through Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport for inviting CA Malaysia to provide our insight of how we develop this NSP and also SSP in Malaysia. But I'm not going to go into very much detail, just probably touching on the surface, because otherwise it will take longer. And then as you know, there's a lot of baby boomers inside. So, to have everything interesting will take a lot more harder work to do. Okay. A bit of overview of my presentation. I'll touch a bit of a background and a little history about CM, CM transformation, development and implementation of NSP and also SSP, challenges that we face, lastly, a conclusion. A bit of history about CM. We were Department of Civil Aviation before 2018. But in February 2018, we transformed ourselves into a statutory body, still under the same Ministry of Transport. And we call ourselves Civil Aviation Authority of Malaysia. So with that, we become autonomous body to ensure efficient management of the safety and security of the civil aviation in Malaysia. And among CM key function to regulate, facilitate, and promote the nation's aviation and aerospace industry. Just 1 year after our induction into Civil Aviation Authority of Malaysia, we were audited by FAA in April 2019, to be exact. And the effect was that, we were downgraded in November that year. And the same year, we were visited by 2 missions, CAT mission and also a TAM mission in December and also February, December 2019 and February 2020, respectively. And I think the result was not very good. Fortunately, during one of the mission, the TAM mission, they provide us with civil aviation master plan. Okay. So when we were downgraded, we were, probably hit hard by the effect of that downgrading. And we have to pick ourselves up, and because of that civil aviation master plan given by or drafted by the TAM mission, we were able to sort of plan ourselves. So that downgrading, in fact, became the impetus for our transformation. And when we address, when we come up with, in that civil aviation master plan, it outlines a few things that we need to do. One of it is actually National Aviation Safety Plan and also State Safety Program. If we were to address all this, we basically address the concern by FAA during that audit. Okay? So when we develop our NASP, we determined there's 4 national safety issues. It's nothing different than what you have seen in GAPS, the one that being presented by Anam just now. Okay, but we determined these 4 particular issues. Operationally, it was a significant number of accident and incident, and 3 organizational issues, which is 1, safety oversight deficiency, and 2, a low EI score in AGA and CE4, CE7, and CE8. The number 3 organizational issue was as a result of audit that we had under ICAO in 2016. So I think we need to revamp our safety oversight system thoroughly to make sure that we address, not just the FAA issue, but our organizational issue. Okay. And last but not least, in our NSP is we need to address the ineffectiveness of our SSP implementation. And in doing so, we set up 3 goals for our NASP. Goal number 1 is to achieve continuous reduction of operational safety risk. The target is to maintain a decreasing trend of the national accident rate. Goal number 2 is to strengthen our safety oversight capability. The target, 2 targets there, to achieve EI 85% by 2026 and 95% by 2030. And we set the target number 2 for goal number 2 to achieve a safety oversight index greater than 1 in all areas. And we set up also goal number 3 to improve effectiveness of SSP implementation. And to target within that goal number 3 is, number 1 is to implement SSP Foundation by 2022. We have achieved that, but not 100%. We'll see the result afterwards. And we will try to fully implement effective SSP by 2025. For goal number 1, as mentioned also by Anam just now, we have 5 national high-risk categories of occurrence. So it's similar. So we have control flight into terrain, lock high, main collision, runway incursion, and also runway excursion. So I'd like to discuss a bit about goal number 2. How do we strengthen our site capabilities? Throughout 2 years, during COVID, it was also a blessing to us, despite our inability to move out. At that time, we had a very fortunate. There's a lot of pilot workers who are unemployed. Okay, so it opens the gate for us to get more people into Civil Aviation Authority of Malaysia. I know this is not going to be a permanent solution, but it was the best solution at that time. So COVID do provide us actually a bit of leeway when we actually employ almost double the number of inspectors that we have prior to 2019. And because of that, we managed to revamp ourselves. For information, I think we produced about close to 300 documents within that 2-year period. You can see the CADs, CACs. These are all document, a requirement, guidance material, policy manual, that we produce within that 2 short-year period. Okay. And we also revamped our, our working processes, our procedure, checklist. We, in fact, also reorganized our structure. Some of the division is combined to make it more effective. Previously we have ENS and also AGA separately. Now they are together. To have a bit more cohesiveness in the way we do things. We also streamline our training policy. It's a big, not that we don't have any training program or policy previously, but it was basically bits and pieces. Every division do it their own way. So now we have a very comprehensive training policy for the whole of Civil Aviation Authority of Malaysia. And to address what we do daily to overcome or to face FAA's findings and also to prepare ourselves for the future IQ USOP audit, we actually do our internal self-assessment, and it is done on a Google worksheet, and it is live. So everybody within the regulatory division is able to go into that Google Drive and update, and it is continuously monitored by our quality and standard division. And whenever there's improvement to the findings, or any evidence that is being put in will be validated and will be accepted as satisfactory. As you can see, this what we have currently, through our self-assessment program. As you can see, in 2005, we had our first IQ USOP audit. And in 2016, we have the second USOP audit. So we have not had other USOP audit after that, except for the FAA audit in 2019. Okay, so the one on the right is actually our current self-assessment, I would say the percentage or indicator our current position at the moment. Okay, these are the integrated state safety program, which includes, the SSP part and also the safety oversight part within the organization. I think it's quite a common diagram. Okay, for the goal number 3, to improve effectiveness of SSP implementation, we officially launched our SSP policy. We call it Malaysia Safety Policy in September 2022 by our Secretary General of Ministry of Transport. He is the accountable executive for this SSP. Okay. Again, launching doesn't mean we have not done anything before that. It's just that officially we are launching it on September of 2022. Okay, so we have the document on our website. Okay, and in that we set a few priorities, as mentioned in that slide: a reduction in operational risk. We aspire to have 0 fatalities by 2030. Improvement of safety oversight and compliance. We target use of CMA-EI 85% and 95% by 2026 and 2030 respectively. Similar like the objective or the goal that we set for our NASP. Okay, consistent and effective safety management system and state safety program. We aspire to achieve full implementation by 2025. Predictive risk management, advanced regulatory oversight based on available data. Enhance aviation infrastructure, achieve EI 75% by 2022, and certify all international airroom for AGA by 2023. And for goal number 3, also, how do we monitor our SSP implementation? We have 3 different levels of group. One is the safety coordination group, chaired by the SecGen himself, okay, which includes CM and also the investigative body within the Ministry of Transport. And we have safety regulatory group. This is chaired by our CEO of CM. And we have the working group, the safety implementation group, chaired by our SSP director. Okay. And throughout this SSP implementation, we have managed to improve all the guidance and also the requirements that I showed you earlier. We produced some 300 documents within that short 2-year period. And for safety reporting, we have a new system, we call it CARES, Civil Aviation Reporting System. This is also on our website. So now all the reporting, MOR, voluntary report, can be accessed and input into that CARES. And currently, our SSP foundation stands at 74%, and at a level 3, 29% for level of implementation, the source from iStars. Okay, challenges. Like I mentioned earlier, we have a couple of challenges in trying to implement this NASP and also SSP. I think that the topmost challenges will be capacity building. And human resources, actually, they are together. Currently, we have quite a healthy number of inspectors, but these people is actually, they were inside CM when COVID is around. Now, COVID has gone. So you can see a lot of, actually, quite a number of them is actually leaving the organization for the airlines. So we might face another shortage of these inspectors. So we need to find ways how to overcome this issue. And we also have organizational cultures resistant to change. I think it's quite common to any organization, and when we want to do anything new, there's always resistance. And we try to make sure that our regulatory compliance is at the topmost requirement, and we also try as much as possible to conduct stakeholder engagement. And another thing that is crucial is continuous improvement or maintaining momentum. I think sometimes we like to build house, but it's very difficult to maintain the house. Similarly, we like to do things first time, but to maintain it is even harder. So this is one of the challenges that we try to address as we go on. Okay, and my last slide, actually, a conclusion. We are actually on track to achieve most of this NSP and also state safety program goals and target. And we are continuously going to address all the issues that we face. And when it comes to capacity building, we are going to continue training our officer, our inspector, and we are also going to continuously upgrade our training policy to make sure that it is always on track and up to date. And we are also going to continuously collaborate with our stakeholder to make sure that they are also in tune with what we have within our organization. I think with that, that is the end of my presentation. If there is any question later, I can probably ask me. Okay, but I have to put a disclaimer here. I'm not an expert. I'm a deputy CEO, but I'm not an expert. But I'll try to answer the best I can. Okay. So once again, before I retire, my sincere gratitude to the organizer for the opportunity and the hospitality. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Jani. Now over to Mr. Chris.
Good afternoon. First, I want to thank the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, and Transport for the opportunity to speak and for the hospitality here. Thank you very much. Many of the programs I'm here to speak about, I'll have to do my own slides. Let's see if I can. There you go. Apologies. Several of the things I'm going to speak about today, the previous speakers have already touched on. So I'm going to take the opportunity to try not to repeat what they've said and expand on our experience in Australia on how we approached integrating this not only as a theory, but actually something in practice, which is something that'll be unique to us. Everybody has a different size and complexity and engagement with government. So we're happy to have a discussion later on about how we did it and what might apply, what might not. So I'd like to talk quickly about, this looks familiar to everybody, so it shouldn't be something that surprises anybody here, but it's not just a summary of what we considered there. That is where we started from. And our experience was similar to what the previous speakers just spoke about. We started with the macro documents, and we worked our way through to find the details of how we were going to drill it down, and then we started to look at how we would have to look at it in our own context of our own risks. So we reviewed all these, but one of the things we took away from that is that each state agency has a different view of the importance of this. So one of the things that we realized that we had to look at the outcome we wanted to get to and then pretty much reverse engineer it. Because if we don't, we would have a tendency to stray. In my country, we engage across government, and quite often governments have different and competing needs. So we had to establish what we felt our needs were, but also understand what theirs were as well, because as governments change and ministries change, as an independent authority, we still have to work with them. So we have to identify the risks and make sure that we all understand and we're working towards the same risk, so a common shared goal. Many of the things I'm going to say that we found that worked are going to be basic to things, but they just reinforce the importance of the things we know that work and addressing them early and often. So one of the things that was the important part of this of identifying our risks was also identifying where it was housed in the many different government plans. So everybody knew which part they had to play in it. So everybody knew what part they owned and what they were responsible for when working with someone else. And that eventually leads us to hopefully what our future state will be, and that's starting with the risks and challenges. So one of the risks and challenges that we had to look at is to make sure that everybody understood the importance of aviation safety and the goals there. Now, several years ago, I think that would have been more challenging, but we found on the heels of COVID that people recognized for once that the aviation is a national asset, and it goes to infrastructure, it goes to commerce, and it touches everyone's life and everyone's business, and a great deal to do with security as well. And the challenges came. So this time we had more of an appetite from our counterparts, which was really refreshing for us. It enabled us to advance this in a more holistic manner than we would have probably expected 5 years ago. So even the non-aviation people that we had to deal with understand the value and what it brought to the table. So one of the things we looked at that is new and emerging, which is not is new anymore, is ARPAs. Very, very prevalent in Australia. They're everywhere all the time, and they're all around the runways, and everybody wants to take a picture of an airline on short final. We continue to work hard. Other things are operational complexity. The construct with which we work in is different than some other countries, broad distances between, not enough coverage to have surveillance coverage of the whole country. So there's gaps in between, so it's almost transoceanic in some parts of inside the country because it is that far dispersed. One of our challenges. Infrastructure. A few new airports coming on board, which is very good. It has been some time, but there's several opening, and that increases some of the complexity that goes with a third airport in the Sydney Basin, which is a major one, which is a significant airspace complexity issue for us. And then the aging fleet, not only the aging commercial fleet, but a very significant aging GA fleet as well that creates some risk for us. One of the things that we also have to deal with is emerging tech, which many people have spoken about, and that's how to integrate these as well. And that includes AAM, sustainable fuels, carbon zero, and how to integrate this into something that is tangible and effective and something that's achievable rather than just a theory. So we had to consider all this in creating our plan. And then one of the things, I apologize, I got a little ahead of myself, is one of the things that we're facing, which I think many countries are as well, and that is the workforce capability. Originally it was a pilot issue, and now it's a lot around the engineers. They're a significant issue in terms of getting them to all the places that need them with the expected rise in operations over the next few years. And then just our own organizational state complexity. Everyone will have their own way of navigating with inside and what you have to deal with. So that was a part of our consideration, and I'll talk to how we manage that here shortly. All right, our safety goals, if I can get it to build. Where most of the ones we've spoken about today in the high-risk categories are in the initial, where it seeks to achieve a continuous reduction of the operational safety risks by our stakeholders. Now, one of the things we took great pains to do, what we probably haven't done as well in the past, is how it has involved industry. A lot of times the mentality is we're telling you how to be safe, but in this case, for some of these high-ticket, high-risk categories are how they deal with them and where they see the risks at. And we've had significant engagement and changed airspace in particular based off of inputs on these major areas. So the engagement with the industry early and often as a partner in this proved to be very fruitful for us. Our oversight, as you know, everybody has limited resources, so the ability to use your oversight and surveillance resources effectively to address these major topics has been very critical. And it goes to how do we ensure the continuing implementation of the CEs, and so we have a management and a government structure appropriate to meet those. So that asks the question for us, are we right-sized? Do we have the right people for the future, not for what we had in the past? We don't need someone who understands vacuum tubes, I need someone who understands GPS. So it's a bit of a shift in some ways as we move on. Embedded in that is also our ability to understand the acceptable level of safety for your performance, for your country, and for your ambitions. Being able to articulate that, we found an unusual challenge, not within ourselves or within this group, but sometimes our external stakeholders, to make them understand what the difference between 10 to the minus 9 and 10 to the minus 6 is, and what that means to you day in and day out. So that's something, or what layered mitigation strategies mean, and how those combine to make a solid safety program, not relying on one particular event. We also talked about reducing the likelihood of accidents, and that's through safety performance and establishing engagement with others, for the most part. But the important thing is we need to partner with everyone here, as we all are a global asset where many other things are not. And we're always constantly moving in and out. So the key is for us to have a continued engagement to understand what your issues are, as well as to understand where we have commonality and where there are differences, so we can articulate that. The use of industry programs has been beneficial as well. Different degrees of uptake on those, because quite often they require a user to have more onus on themselves or more requirements on themselves than the regulations necessarily require. We think that's a very mature approach, and we encourage people to do that. And we try to give them benefit for that as we're working with them in the country. So we try to create a positive feedback loop for them to take on these additional aspects of it. And finally, for that, the infrastructure to support the operations. Infrastructure is, people commonly think of the physical aspects of it, but the infrastructure is also the people. And I think we all know that the people are what make it go, and having the right people, the right place at the right time are critical to advancing and continuing a sustainable safety program. Now, as I mentioned earlier, some of the people have already talked about some of these, so I won't go into great detail other than to show how we did a bit of a drill down. I'll build that a little faster. And this is where we drill down. I think one of the takeaways we have in our exposure was to try to understand how you take those very macro policy and thoughts and translate them into a strategy that somebody can then take an action and implement. Quite often it's that area in the middle that we found has been difficult to articulate more than we just want a very safe operation to what level of safety you want, and that allows people to manage it. So what we did is we tried to translate, and the other thing that we found very effective here, but also we use elsewhere, is if we can't link anything we do below the level of this diagram up through this chain, then we have to ask ourselves, why are we doing it? Is it actually producing the outcome? And we're, right now, as we had mentioned earlier from the earlier speakers, we're focused on those first 5, the ones that are really important. And of those 5, we've had all 5 of those in the past 2 years in Australia. So it is front of mind for us. So that goes to a little bit of how we build from there and how we approached it. Now, I will mention that what we did is we created some next layer down, the SEIs, and we had 20 of them that we felt. Now, like many organizations, we have a lot of pilot engineers and risk specialists, so they love their checklist. So what they did is they got together and they figured out what is it we need to do to break it down to start to make it. So the next slide is a little busy. It's not meant to be a reading test, but to give you an idea of what we did internally to try to break down those major elements. You can see that each one has some associated actions. Now, not all those actions actually fell to our organization. So we had some intergovernmental work we had to do there. So this is a little bit of a drill down there where you can see we started to break it down into more actionable and more policy driven, where you can take that policy and turn it into a strategy and figure out what might we do. So it falls into, we have a lot of options, but we know we can source it directly back to this. So again, the clarity of direction and clarity of where we're going was the key to success for us. Now I have a couple slides here just to show a status of where we think we are right now. One of the things we found that was good was tracking. I know that sounds very common, but the ability to be able to make sure that we track it back. But probably the things that we found with our delayed actions, which I'll show you over the next few slides, is that we found that we were probably a little ambitious in our expectation and enthusiasm. We were enthusiastic, but not everybody else had another job perhaps to do. So we found it, we had to work a little more collaboratively. And again, I'm not going to go into detail on these, but basically most of these have been delayed, but we're hoping to have them done this year, or they'll roll into the next NASP for us. So again, a little optimistic on our due dates, but that's good enthusiasm. I'd rather have to pull people back than have to get them started to do the work. One of the things I want to mention on this one, only because in the round, is that is an increased emphasis on drones in this area for mid-air collision avoidance. There's a great deal of them, and the ubiquity of where they're used. Anybody can open up the boot of their car and pull one out. It is more of an emerging issue for us because of the density of the population near the airports and the capital city airports we have. So we've decided, much like most of you, will be education is the predominant way to go. This is for a group that may have never done anything with aviation before. So they speak and learn, and much to our earlier speaker about how the digital natives learn, we've approached them in a very different way. So we actually contracted some studies to figure out how they learn and how they like to get information. We found that ARPAS people like to get it through their phone. Pilots like to get it visually, and engineers liked it in writing. I mean, nothing profound there, but it reinforced our best way of delivering to them. So we have done extensive campaigns that are repeated education programs to try to bring them into the fold and understand the impact they have on the rest of aviation, not just the local within 30 meters of themselves. So again, a few that are delayed. In the interest of time, I'll keep moving, but these are available. These are, again, our self-assessment of where we're going in our first phase. But what I would like to do is talk about a quick summary. We had 70, like I spoke about. We have them, most of them are connected to be done earlier. COVID slowed us down a little bit, but we are catching back up. SEIs have proved very beneficial to that. And then initially we had difficulty in the combined way that we were all going to speak about them and show what success looked like. Again, knowing what the finish line looks like is equally as important as how you start for us. The challenge we find here is that we've done very well. We're nearly caught up. How do we keep it going? That is going to be very difficult. How do we sustain the enthusiasm, not just with us, because most of us understand and value this. It's the other counterparts who maybe don't see the day-to-day impact or benefit from this. So that's a quick look at how we've looked overall for our translation of this to talk about. But what I really want to spend the last couple minutes on is discussing based some of the lessons learned that we're happy to talk about on any occasion that worked or didn't work for us and may or may not, depending on your size and complexity. And one is that aviation strategy or safety strategies sometimes are hard to articulate across government. They don't understand why you're doing something and how that creates an outcome. So we found that challenging to make a bridge of our strategy to task for them. One of the ways we did is we had to go back and look at what the definition of what high risk means to us versus someone who's not in the aviation business. We had an occasion where someone thought an engine that was shut down was catastrophic. That's not a term this group would use, and we didn't seem particularly excited about it. So it's a bit of a translation to have a common language to speak of. So we spent a great deal of time on that. One of the other things we did is we also, in advance of this, brought over a officer from the ministry, our ministry equivalent, into our organization for 6 months prior. So they learned to walk and talk like us and understand what we did, how we did it, and why we got where we were. That was a great investment on our part. When they went back, they were an advocate when it was appropriate, but more importantly, they could translate to the rest of the government agencies, perhaps the security, because we don't own security, to understand why this is important to us or how it might impact, because they had that now in-depth knowledge. That was a great investment. And we also put somebody in their house for 6 months as well, so they came back and understood how the policy system works at that ministry level. And then identifying legislative challenges that go with this. We all have great ideas, but trying to put them in effect, sometimes legally, takes a great deal of time. So identifying those early and understanding whether you actually have the legal ability to take that action, or do you need to leverage a partner to be able to get that to happen. So we're also able to coordinate nothing profound by having the right size group, kind of Goldilocks, not too big, not too small, but just right in the middle, because bureaucracy loves a committee. and committees will end up slowing you down. So we worked very hard to try to get the right size so we had people who could actually have the authority to make things happen and come back to the group and deliver on those. So as I mentioned that one of the key was identifying what the question we're trying to solve was, and making sure everybody had a common language and do that. So that knowing, so we're all working towards it, people could see the connection of the work they were doing. Identifying the right people who could do it was key to us, and then investing the resources, which is difficult. Everybody is resource constrained. So finding the right people and dedicating to them paid dividends for us as we go forward. And then identifying the high-risk occurrences where we're able to focus those limited resources and get the high returns on those and not work on things that perhaps we'll have to work on another time. So with that, I'll finish by saying that we found that clarity of language, some transparency, and communicate early and often, but with objectives, has been proven very successful for us at getting this jump started. It'll be a continued work in progress. We'll have to let you know next time how we're continue to go. And with that, I'll also note that there's a link there for anybody who wants to have a look at that. And then also in Bangkok in August, the real true geniuses behind all this will be there if you want to have some in-depth time, or you can reach out to us, and I'm happy to put you in touch. And with that, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chris. Now over to Young Bae Kim.
Yeah. Okay, good afternoon. I am Kim Hyung-bae. Yes, right. I'm Deputy Director of Aviation Safety Policy and Licensing Division, MOLIT, Korea. I am very honored to be here as a presenter today, the last session and last presentation. Yeah. I prepared this presentation focused on SDCPS implementation in Korea. I would like to share the experience in what we have done so far and what we are planning to do in the future for enhancing the SSP very briefly. Okay, let's start. I don't want to exceed any time anymore. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I borrowed this diagram from the NASA. When I attended the safety intelligence workshop in last March in Bangkok, it is very useful to express the paradigm of safety management. Yeah. The paradigm of aviation safety management has been changed from the post-active method to proactive one. And also we are planning to change it to predictive safety. And as a post-active method, the hazard were identified from the limited case of event, I mean accident or incident. So under that circumstances, the identifiable hazard were very limited so that we could not properly manage the risk. Yeah, so it has been changed to proactive method that the hazard were can identify from the various data from such as safety report or oversight report and operational context and so on. So based on those identified hazards, we could properly manage the acceptable level of risks in proactively manner. And furthermore, to address the predictive safety, the ICAO has reviewed to introduce the concept of safety intelligence on a draft Annex 19 revision, as I know. The thing that I want to tell you on this first slide is that the main key element to meet all of these changing paradigm is up to data, I think. I believe you all agree with that. What about Korea? Corresponding to changing paradigm, Korea has been going on step on this. We established the SSP on 2008, then we have introduced KSDCPS with adopting the related regulations. And we have been preparing to implement a safety intelligence, as I mentioned in the previous slide. And how we are preparing predictive safety, we have been proceeding the R&D project to develop the predictive safety system by utilizing big data. The objective of the R&D is to develop the algorithm and the system that is identifying and analyzing the precursors and is supporting the risk mitigation in advance. The remarkable difference from current system is to identify the hazard or precursors by utilizing the in-time data from the normal operation, not only the occurred event. This is the main concept of the R&D project. First, to make a list of precursors by analyzing the recent tendencies and potential hazard, and so on. After collecting and cleaning the data, we detect the precursors from the analyzed data. Then we are able to analyze it, and we use it for supporting the decision-making about the safety management. As you see, it is very simple concept, but it is not easy to make, I think. The main key of this concept is to detect precursors in time so that we are able to mitigate the risk in advance. Next, about implementation of Korea SDCPS, what we have done. We had built a legislation basis for SDCPS implementation in 2020. According to Annex 19 and Safety Management Manual, we revised the Aviation Safety Law and SSP to introduce SDCPS. Then we established the provisions related with collection and processing the data. More detail would be come up with the following slides. About specialized organization for handling data, we had decided to establish the special agency to support the systemic and efficient implementation of SDCPS. We had developed existing organization that was performing limited data analysis at that time to the full charging of organization for handling data. We had made legal basis to commit the job to them, and we also have built up the related budget and the human resources. We finally have started to this center since 2021, so-called Korea Aviation Safety Data Analysis Center. The center is performing the duties, collecting, cleaning, analyzing data, and also sharing the information that is made from the analyzed data. And they also cooperated with the data owners like airliners, airport operators, and any other bodies within the government side to collect and process the data stably and smoothly. There are 12 specialists are working on it. And this is just beginning stages for them. So we believe they are getting more mature as time goes by. Yeah. About safety data we collected. We have stated the definition of 12 types of aviation safety data on aviation safety law to collect it stably. We have been expanding the number of types of collected data from the 5 to 12, divided in 4 phases from 2021 to 2024. For phase 1, 2021, we started to collect 5 types of data, such as safety reports and defects of aircraft and investigation report and oversight report and statistics. For phase 2, last year we have expanded 3 more types, which are from the airport operators and any other states and any international organization for safety, and related with dangerous goods and wildlife. And we have 4 more types of data for phase 3 and phase 4, related with weathers and industry, and last 2 is from the LADA and recorded flight data belonging to airliners. Okay, beyond the legislation basis, we have tried to cooperate with data owner to collect data more stably. Yeah. Especially, we have closely negotiated with airliners for collecting the recorded flight data, as I mentioned before, belonging to airliners. It is not easy to collect recorded flight data, because the data has a little bit sensitive information on it. So we think the data owners seem to hesitate to open to government side. So we try to keep talking with it. Yeah. This is common diagram for SDCPS, the process of data handling. We have made the standards and the procedures to collect and handle the data. We collect and clean the data and to analyze it according to the procedures and standards that we made. Then the specialists analyze the collected data and produce the meaningful information by utilizing it that data owners want. The information is used for supporting government or data users to manage on their own safety. How it utilized? The 8 types of data which have been collected so far are utilized for issue analysis, risk assessment, and safety performance management. It is very basic material data for common risk management activities. And 4 types of data which we are planning to collect would be utilized for building some systems we are planning, such as in-time information sharing system about turbulence and detecting precursors and big data analysis. The first one is related with the system that is shared by the yesterday presentation, Dr. Bae, Captain Bae. Yes. It is a collaboration plan between government and airliners. the origin system has been planned to set up by Korean Air. We're gonna collect the analyzed data that is obtained by available airliners, and we integrated the whole data we collected from many airliners, and we produced the integrated information and we shared to all of airliners. It is our full picture of that plan. Next, we have been trying to keep close with the related bodies to establish the objective decision-making system for safety management. There are several types of meeting groups that are held regularly to discuss or share the information about safety issues. And we are planning to organize the working groups to accelerate the collection and processing the data from recorded flight data belonging airliners. The steering groups would list up the meaningful precursors and consult how the precursors related to hazards. We try to share the decision-making process to let them know how to use and how to handle the data that they provided to us. Yes. Last pages. There are still several challenges on SDCPS we have to deal with. And as I mentioned before, we have talked to each other very many times, but there is still some different perspective on data collection and processing. You know, data owners are trying to keep their data within their silo, and they believe they properly could manage their risk only by their own data. On the other hand, government are trying to collect data as many as they could, and they don't believe single data owners cannot manage their own risks by only their own data. And government believe they can integrate all of data collected from the single data owners, so we can provide meaningful information and or useful information that is made from the integrated data. So we keep talking with them closely and continuously. We are trying to show them what we are planning to build eventually. Next challenge is about not specified the data users' expectation and needs. This challenge is about data custodians or stewards' perspective. Yeah, data users want to have the information to support their right decision-making properly. And however, unfortunately, most of data users have not specified and or clarified exactly what they want. So it is not easy to process the data properly and efficiently. So the government as a data users has to clarify exactly what information would improve and contribute the right decision making. To do this, we have more conversation with many stakeholders like data owners, users, stewards, and custodians, and so on. We try to develop some feasible and a simple roadmap based on the needs related data. Last one is about technical issues about on SDCPS. 5V is volume and variety, value, veracity, and velocity. These are common technical issues on SDCPS, not only Korea, as I believe. That's okay. You know, are we capable of carrying out much like massive data? And is the data reliable and consistent across various systems? Does the data represent the right attributes and relationship, or does the data meet our needs? Is the data accurate, correct, and up to date? And last, is the data available when we need in timely manner? You know, the data we are handling is getting bigger, getting heavier, and more various. It is needed to invest more resources, include human resources and financial resources to manage the data properly. But you know, every resources are always limited. So economically speaking, government has to determine how many data to be collected and how long period to be stored. It is very economically speaking, I said. And another issue is the 3 V's, value, veracity, and velocity, about assurance quality. We need to have enough automation system and well-trained expert to assure the quality of data. It is also needed another resources. So the government has to select what level of accuracy and precision is required, and not too low, also not too high, to support the right decision making most of the time. Okay. Oh, sorry. That's all I prepared today. Sorry, exceed already 5 minutes. Sorry. No. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Okay, so thank you very much, all the speakers, for your wonderful presentation. In the last part, we will go through a little bit of tools that in the Asia Pacific we try to do on the whole monitoring and oversight. And it's probably will like it, some of it. So first of all is the APAC monitoring tool. So as we had been talking about the NSP and then RSP and GASP, the last action item is the ACI, Safety Enhancement Initiative, which you have to basically implement. So what we did is that we have made an ACI monitoring tool as a dashboard. Then we have the problem of GASP, as I said, changing every 3 years, and then we need to monitor the cross-reference. Otherwise, it's pretty difficult that whether states are aligned, whether region is aligned and all this. So we wanted to make a GASP, APRASP, NSP cross-reference. And then each one of the NSP, when state promulgates, whether they're implementing is another important issue. It's not only a document. There are a lot of actions that they have to do. So then whether the implementation we can monitor. And then GASP, APRASP, and NSP, ACI implementation, whether they're aligned finally, so that we can understand that, okay, we are in line with the globe, something like that. So I have drawn the flowchart myself. Bangladesh has helped in terms of giving me the software support and developer supports. So then we have come out with this, but then it can be further improved a lot. Let me show you one. I don't know, I have to see boats now. Is there any more boat? Is this a boat? I don't know. Bridges. This is a bridge, maybe. Okay, good. Sorry. Okay, so inside the ACI monitoring, you see what we have done carefully. On the left, we kept it fixed. These are the ACIs. On the right is all our 39 states by flag. Okay? And then on the top, it is all CFIT, LOCI, so we can segregate by HRCs, all the ACIs that has been developed here. So if I give CFIT, only CFIT will come. If I give LOCI, then LOCI will come. Okay, if I give all, then all of them will come. And then there is A called under review, B called implementation status by the state. That means whether state has adopted the ACI. And then C is implementation by the operator. That means you have 10 operators. You consolidate and tell us how much in percentage that operators has adopted this, okay? And then D means all action completed. That means you have given it, you have taken yourself, you have given it to the industry has implemented, and then things are being done. That's how you fill it up, this A, B, C. So if I go just Australia, they have done A 100%. On the model regulation of the ground proximity GPWS. That means we have supplied as an ACI the model regulation. The state has implemented by themselves, which was under review. B is they have adopted a regulation, which is 25%. That means they're under process. C is by the operator. That is also 25%. That means operators are also in the conversation. Like that, each one of the state we can monitor for all these 19 ACIs or 20 ACI has been developed, and then where are they? And when it is full tick means all action taken for that particular ACI. So that's how we can monitor the ACIs. Then we have the GASP, APRASP, and the NASP cross-reference, where every time the document is being revised, let's say 10131, it says how many chapters has to be there in the NASP and all this. We put it on the left, and then on the right, we keep it fixed, and then we go by the state, all 39. And then we ask the state that upload where is the location in your NASP document, the chapter number 2, 3, 4, 5 chapter number that you have addressed, the overview of the NASP including structure according to the doc 10131. That means that will give us an alignment that, okay, I have gone through the ICAO document and then I'm doing my overview according to the guidance of 10131. And then you say that, okay, in this chapter on the overview structure or the commitment, how much you have implemented in the NASP. Okay, so that's how you have to upload from the state side. Okay, next was the NASP implementation monitoring tool. That means now then your NASP has been promulgated and is formalized. So you upload your all state 39, upload your NASP, and then you say you have started the implementation of it, because some of you still on the verge of producing the document, so we do not know. So we have to know from the region, and then you say overall how much is your percentage of implementation. So that's how we will know that where are you in terms of the NASP implementation. Okay, and last but not the least is the mapping, which I said that, okay, how do we understand that whether you are in line or not? So that will go from the regional perspective, because this document, the RASP sits in between as an operational document, connecting the strategic document, which is the GSP, and then the tactical document, which is the NASP. So we gave the regional HRC on the left, and then we gave a reference of the GSP ACI, which needs to be a little bit updated now. And then APRASP ACI we have written here. So what you do, in line with this, what ACI you have developed, you put it here. Let's say one has been developed here. So as we don't have space, so we gave it like expansion. And then you can say that, okay, according to the template, I have made my NASP in this fashion, and then this is being implemented 75%. Okay, that's for, let's say, Bangladesh. So that's how the mapping part of it is done. All right? So next quickly we will switch to the another software. Okay, now here, I mean, what is ICAO really in terms of effective implementation and use of CMA? It's fairly easy. 8 critical element, 8 area, okay? Leg, org, payl, ops, air, AIG, ANS, AGA. And then 8 of them, the critical elements. So 8 into 8, 64 interfaces, if you know, it's fairly easy. It's not tough. But in between sits a lot of things. 12,000 SARPs, 12,000 standards. And then safety oversight can be how complex. So what we thought, if once we go to the field, that why not we find something which will give a state a capacity in terms of effective implementation of the critical elements. So we went from, in our thoughts, from critical element 1 to 8. You see, on the left is all of them. So 1, 2, and 5, primary aviation legislation, specific operating regulation, and the guidance material is nothing but document. So we kept 1 to 5 together. Okay, in the 1 to 5, I'll not go into details, I'll just show you the overview. So if you go any one of them, so you need to keep all those documents secured somewhere. So all documents and checklists, you can keep it together. And then you can also explore, and then you can view, you can work out together in your rule-making process any document you want to. Okay, once you have the access, and then you can fundamentally go to that document and set the permission, and then you can also work together, 20 of you, if there is an amendment. Now come to the critical element 4, which I was saying the most important aspect of it. So we have made first an employee list of the whole CA. There may not be everybody who is an inspector. So you make everybody, give him an ID and everything, then you come to the ITS, Inspectors Training System, where we have added like area, sub-area competency assessment, which is a very important thing that we had been talking about. Any ITS venue, formal courses, job, and all this. In the Annex 1, 6, and 8, we have 480 OJTs, all is being uploaded. Number of GSI courses and everything is being uploaded. So let's say we want to see a technical stuff, we can also, because our protocol question says we have to have a training program, we have to have a training plan. Those are also being included. And a technical stuff, if we go, we exactly know that what are the courses that he will be doing next. And you see in his courses, level 1, level 2, level 3, under the ITS is the OJT. And the moment he does this OJT, he becomes green as an inspector. If he does not do that, then he is a trainee in the red. Okay? And then if you go to his inside, you will be able to see who was his instructor, where he did that. You'll be able to see his course certificate and everything. And then, yeah, so let's say this is my GSI course certificate. Okay? And then you'll be able to see his OJT, and all of them you can track that, okay, where he is in terms of ITS. Okay, and also certainly we can also do the competency criteria in terms of, inspector's credentials. Here is the competency assessment. You just put anything, let's say director of flight operation, you have the area ops, okay, and then you have, let's say, FY. So if you want to select, your competency will come how many you have inserted into the system. So all of the competencies you can put in for his hiring criteria, job functionality, and everything. Okay, and then similarly I will not explain to the e-licensing, so it is a similar process. I will come to the C6 in terms of certification a little bit. Certification is a big issue that we see, and if it is automated, it's so good. So let's say we build a certificate. ICAO has invented a very, very nice process, which is the 5-phase formal process, right? From pre-application to certification. So let's say this is on the test beta version, as I'm saying, so I go to details. Here, if anybody applying for an AOC and then your minister asks where is he, you just say, okay, at this point in time, he's at 70% with his 5 phases. Now, how do you build 5 phases? An AOC has AMO, CAMO, ATO, aircraft inclusion, OPSPEC. So all these modules you can create separately under this ABCL line. Okay, and then on the AOC, you create your 5 phases. Now, these 5 phases, you can create any kind of form. So all these form settings, every button is given onto the right, not on the left. You don't have to go to the menu. And then you have a couple of, process is nothing but the events. So it is event detail, evidences, and in the evidence, you put all your material and guidance material together. So your regulation and GM, you can keep it under one event. Let's say this event is the prospective operator's first meeting, okay? And it is a high-level meeting. The project manager will design for 60 days for the pre-application phase. Similarly, he will design rest of the phases here, formal document evaluation and certification. And once you complete one event, you click this, it will give you the percentage of achievement that, okay, out of 10 events, how many you have achieved, which is 70%, as I showed you at the onset. And then the project manager will design all these things. So this is a complete automated system where you don't need any papers. Evidences, you put it here, all your evidences. Generate link. This link you can use any across the system anywhere to produce the events for the auditor. I'll just come back to that in a short while. So now you can see all of them also together, and then this is what it is. Now, for a particular event, let's say prospective operator's first meeting, you don't have to go to the email and Outlook. You just go to the details. Here you can follow up everything under this event. You can also shoot an email right from here, shoot an SMS right from here. So it goes deep into the subject so that the follow-up can be just found out through the event. You don't have to go to the Outlook and then try to find out the event later on, okay? And then on the certification issue, finally, we have also thought about, because there are many countries who are like manual and automated in between, So in that case, you need layers of approval. So in that case, approval user management also will give you some kind of approval process. Let's say you can have like level 1, level 2, let's say assistant director to deputy director to director to the DG. So you can create your levels of approval. And then you can certainly go ahead, similar, like a little bit like manual system in the automated way. And then you can also do the print and then come with the QR code for all those certification and everything. Okay, and then we come to the next important one is the surveillance, inspection, and audit, where SI is another important part that whole of the APAC region is suffering. So in this case, let's say a SI that you will be developing under a program for 6 months, 3 months, whatever. Let's say if we go to the details, this is an unique number 4001, under which you will be able to attach your checklist, build your own checklist, and then you will have the action details, and then let's say you have 3 findings. Any one of the findings that I click, okay, it will still carry forward this 4001. So if you carry 4001, that means you can track. Some findings will close in 7 days, some will close in 6 months, some will close in 1 year, so you never lose it. And then you have the corrective action where forcefully for each one of the findings, we are telling the industry to come up with the SMS practice, where hazard identification and all these, he has to fill up under his caps. Okay, so if he has to address any issues, so he has to actually also fill up the SMS part of it, and then he can quickly review that whether he's in the red zone, yellow zone, or the green zone. So automatically when industry says he's at 5A, he's grounded. I mean, often the pressure will not come to the inspector. Why did he ground him for any parochial interest? I mean, that's a smart way of doing things through the system. So system will say, no, you have to be grounded, okay? And then there is an exam system. So whole of the exam, you can do that anyway. You can put all kind of exam, upcoming exam archives. You can do the exam settings in terms of subject, chapter, faculty, and then everything with the shift and schedule. You can put all aircraft information before you go to the inspection. So let's say if I go to one of them, so you can add type certification, you can add exemption, owner's information, lessor, lessee, whatever. So all these information, if you put up to the industry, they will actually fill it up and then sort out with you. Now coming to the last 2 modules in next 2 minutes is the CCE for. This is another important issue that in the compliance checklist and CCE for, we only, we are so scared to use the OLF because NCMCs don't share password. Nobody wants to, break the ICAO tools, and then they're scared of using it, kind of. So then if it is a own system, you can file for each standard, okay? If I select any annex, let's say Annex 6, and then all the standards, let's say Part 1, and all these standards will display here, 510 of them. So if you select number 2, and then search number 2 will come. Now you put your no difference, mode exacting, and all this. What is the beauty of this, or difference from the OLF? It has an adopted date, effective date, and applicable date, which always you elapse when there is an amendment. So this will give you reminder in the notification of this system here. Okay, so automatically you will get a reminder that your date has been over, so amendment has to be done within the time. So you will be reminded. Okay, now on that, last but not the least, there is an important thing that which we have done is Annex 17, because AppSec do not have anything automated like use of CMA. That's another important part. So even on the AppSec, all these standards are being already sorted out, 146 of them. Okay. Now coming to the protocol question, state letter and amendment is also, you can go ahead with the amendment at any point in time. And in the protocol question, PQ assessment, you see, you can attach the MIR, you can have the SSCPQ, SSPPQ, SSPA, offsite, priority, cap items, anything. So if it is a cap item, it will display small little like this. So if I say that, and you can put any kind of program, whether it is a use of CMA, it is a USAP, it is a FAA, IASA, all kind of protocol question. So it is not limited to one kind of protocol question. And IOSA, anything which has a question. So you can use the program. Let's say on the use of CMA, if we say audit area ops, and then search, so 4001 will come. And 4001 says that, okay, where is the operating regulation? So you just link here, and then you show the auditor evidence. It will just go directly to the C125 in the evidence column. So automatically you can see the PQ assessment. And then if you want to go, let's say in the certification, let me put like 100. Okay, so 93. Let's say this is the formal application process. So if you link in this question, and then directly it will take you to the certification that I have shown in the ABCL line. So it is in the formal application process. So thereby showing the evidence from the protocol question directly is so easy. Okay, and then you will have all kind of notification. You can make your own website by yourself, how you want to design, and it has all the user permission and access control and everything. So on these eight critical elements was the fundamental, that oversight that we had been saying, that C1 to 5 and then 6, 7, 8 in terms of implementation, use of CMA, and everything has one kind of understanding from the global perspective, but from the state perspective, integrated. It seems that there is something is missing, because I'm buying a licensing from somebody, I'm buying certification from somebody, I'm doing surveillance from somebody, and we cannot integrate data. And it becomes so difficult to call data from one another. But then if it is at least 1 to 8 critical element, all data is in one platform, you can just call the data at any point in time from anywhere. You can make any kind of graph. Okay, so let's say one of them, just if I show in an SIA, let's say report. Yeah. So here is the notice board. In terms of notice board, you will receive all kind of information that, okay, how many surveillance has been done, how many surveillance has not been done. And in terms of report, yeah. So there is the notice board that every day whether the surveillance has been executed or not. And then, yeah, so there is a chart report, and then let's say I want to see every make, model, serial report of how many surveillance has been done. This is a bit of live data from CA Bangladesh, because they had been helping us in the prototype. Let's say if I give 2016, because in between it stopped. So you see here by tail number, okay, Boeing 777, how many times the surveillance was done, how many findings has been done, everything you will get as a report. Okay, so SI means surveillance, inspection, and audit, findings, safety concern, how many had safety concern, how many had enforcement, all of them you will be able to find out. So anyway, that's in short that I just wanted to introduce that in the Asia Pacific office, we are not sitting idle. We are doing a lot of things. I mean, this has been done by me one person alone during the entire COVID time, 2 years. I had sleepless nights to make it, all by myself. So I think that states can take benefit of it, advantage of it. Probably it needs a little bit of partnership here and there. It's a prototype yet, but it needs 2-3 months to finalize. And then this is possible. So I'm not sure where to approach, but then I, as an inventor, I just presented as a beta version today so that things promulgate or you copy it and somebody uses it. I don't mind. So however it is possible, maybe it will augment the oversight part of it, component 1 and component 2, because it has all SSPIA, it has USAP, it has any kind of audit that you name it, you can put it inside with the critical element and the protocol question. And every form, everything, nothing is with the developer. You can do it, change it yourself. Nothing with the developer. So all kind of settings are inside this system. You want to have 3 columns, 4 columns, you want to have 5 checklists, you want to create a checklist, everything is inside, you can do it yourself. You just need a little bit of training. That's it. Okay, thank you so much on this. So we will go to the final part now. For the organizers, is that I have to close the session? Okay. It seems there is nobody else. Okay, so first of all, with my session, session 5, I think all of you have enjoyed last 1.5 hour. And we had been trying to talk something which is specific to the Asia-Pacific region, to some extent may impact or take a reference for the world at large. And our understanding is that I came up with, it was a good composition that we came up with the topics especially, because we discussed before that, okay, we will talk about how the Asia-Pacific going in terms of NASP and RASP is an important issue of today's context. And then 2 of the state experience we will take out and then share with the others. And certainly SDCPS is a big thing which is not happening. As I said, that it needs a lot of interfacing and legal issues to get the data and then data security. So that's where we think that it has to be talked out over and over again. Okay, so from that perspective, thank you very much, panelists of session 5, for your wonderful presentation and a good round of applause for them. Yeah. And regarding the morning session, as it was said that they will be closed by me, we know that first, Laura has gone already, CBTA, PANS training, and IPACs that I would like to remind that she has reiterated. And then we had Robert, who gave a couple of presentations in last 2 days, where he also talked about the AQP program, which is very important, just to remind you, align our training and then integrate the data, and then emerging technology like virtual, augmented, and mixed reality is another important issue that he has talked about. And then Eric came up with the effective training for the new normal, where he also highlighted with the JA training and then traditional, a comparison he made between the traditional and the virtual training, which is very important, that sometimes we feel virtual training is also quite feasible. There is nothing to discourage. Face-to-face is certainly good, but virtual is, in certain cases, is really good. So also he talked about the CBTA. And then Raymond came up with the retention of the young talents, and then KSA, we know that knowledge, skill, and attitude. On top of that, he certainly added the competency-based training and training data analysis. So that was basically session 4. And then we would like to thank the government of South Korea. Heartfelt appreciation for such a wonderful gathering and then keeping us so comfortable in the last 2 days and then showing us the way to move forward. Wonderful event. On behalf of the House, I would like to appreciate and give a big round of applause for Korea. Thank you so much. Fly safe.